Hey there, everyone. Steve Gonzer. I like to adjust this beforehand to make sure we are good. Steve Gonzer, physical therapist with Run Smart Online. We've been talking a lot about run form. I wanted to share 3 secrets with you that you need to do if you're going to transform your running. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're thinking about trying to get off your heel strike, is that A, you don't need it. You've been running successfully for a while. Or B, it's not going to be worth it because of whatever your reasons might be. It's too hard, or you're not interested. And the third one is that maybe you think that you've been running a certain way for so long that you don't need to change the way you run. And I can tell you that's a really bad way to think about this, because transitioning off your heel to a midfoot strike is very important. We've been doing this for 10 years, and it's the one thing that we can do to really prolong the life of a running career, particularly when the knee is the most injured joint for runners. Transitioning off your heel to a midfoot strike preserves the knee, but it also stops with less braking so that you can run faster. So you get 2 main benefits to getting off your heel. I'm going to share those 3 things of mistakes not to do in a second. The 2 main benefits is you brake less, which means that you can run faster. You're not going to be stretching out with that foot and slowing yourself down in every stride. I talk about heel striking is it's kind of like driving your car down the road, where you just start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. If you're tapping the brakes in your car, it's very similar for a heel striker when they run. And then the other key thing is that it prevents injuries. When you learn to midfoot strike, you actually engage the natural rubber bands in your body, and that allows you to shock absorb a lot better. The easiest example of this is to jump and land. And naturally, when you land, you're going to squat into that jump because you want to shock absorb. When we actually had a patient kind of come in, it wasn't today, but it wasn't even my patient, but he fell off a ladder onto both heels. Now imagine this, falling off a ladder, both heels landed on them. He fractured his heels. The heel is not made to shock absorb, but runners tend to kind of rely on their shoes, and it causes a huge host of problems. Either way, we're going to talk about 3 things you guys need to do if you're going to transition off your heel strike. This is based off the last 10 years of work that we've done to help runners transform their running. If you're interested in learning more about this, go to midfootproject.com. We have, it's a link in this post. We are essentially giving you 5-week boot camp to train you how to get off your heel so you can run faster and get better shock absorption. The first thing I want you to make sure that you do when you are going to transition to your midfoot strike, and we do this in our course, is the first thing is you need time. Time. When you heel strike, I'm just going to write some notes here. If you heel strike, heel equals bone. So when you're a heel striker, you're landing on bone. Bones aren't great shock absorbers. I just told you about the guy that fractured his heels. When you midfoot, I'm not talking about toe striking. A lot of people land on their toes, which is completely wrong. So when you midfoot strike, you land on your muscles and your tendons. Those are your natural shock absorbers. Hopefully I'm still in frame. I am. Muscles and tendons are your natural shock absorbers. They're the rubber bands of your body. You load them, they explode into your next stride. They give you a lot of speed. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you get time. When you're transitioning from bone to muscle, muscle needs time to adapt. Do you ever get really sore after a run and you're like, wow, my legs are really sore, or a hard workout, and you know that you've really worked the muscles hard? When you transition to a midfoot strike, you're going to be engaging those muscles right out of the gate. They're going to get sore and tired. You need to make sure you give them enough time. We have a thing that we came up with over the last 10 years that we share in the midfoot project that will give you the timelines to methodically go forward in your midfoot endeavors so that you don't get hurt. Because if you do this too quick, I can tell you right out of the gate, a lot of calf injuries are coming in on this one. Okay, so you got to be careful. The second thing, so you need time. Number 2, and this kind of goes and builds off number 2, is you need muscle prep. Now this is a series of exercises. So I'm going to write here exercises to not only help you prep your muscles for landing, but also to relieve them. They're going to get sore as you go through this process if you do it correctly. So what we do is we tend to give our athletes a series of stretches that we introduce in the Midfoot Project. You can find that at midfootproject.com. We give them a series of exercises to do 2 things: to relieve the spots that are going to be started taking the load, which is the muscles and tendons that are going to start absorbing a lot of your shock when you run. So we give stretches for that. And then we have something called friends and helpers. There's actually a whole week, friends and helpers. There's a whole week dedicated to the midfoot project where we do friends and helpers. Essentially what you're doing here is you're going to strengthen up the muscle groups that are going to help you run midfoot. It's a lot of glute strength, it's a lot of balance, it's a lot of calf prep. By doing this, you actually can relieve some of this, and you can teach these muscles by engaging the friends and helpers to not be so sore. But also this just inherently helps your overall running because you're going to be stronger. We're going to target the key muscle groups that cause a lot of injuries in people. Do I have any more space on here? Yes, I do. So we have number 1. Let's circle that one. That's time. Number 2 that you need to do that most people skip is muscle prep. The first thing is time. They go too quickly. Muscle prep. Number 3 is they miss step. I'm going to explain that in a minute because there's a lot of people that are writing in and telling me that they learned how to midfoot strike. And I showed some video previously, but traditionally when people try to midfoot strike, they say, okay, Steve, I'm not running heel striking anymore. I changed. I'm a new runner. I feel great. And then they end up hurt because of this. When you go from a heel strike to a midfoot strike, it's a very small transition from your heel to your midfoot. If you don't do it properly, what a lot of people do is they land on their toes. And I'll just kind of, I got room over here, maybe, yep. I'm just looking at my monitor to make sure I have room. So they end up, here's the ground, right? Here's the ground here. And here's the foot coming in contact with the ground. They end up landing towards the forefoot, the front part of their foot. And what that does, a couple things. Number 1, it's super inefficient and it actually slows you down quite a bit because it treats your leg like a diving board. Imagine running to the end of a diving board, jumping down and loading the diving board, and what does it do? It takes you and throws you up in the air. When you run this way and people misstep and they toe run, this is the big thing. And when they toe run, they overload the calf, they overload the Achilles, they overload the plantar fascia, they treat them like springs, and they just crush these areas. The other thing that people tend to do when they toe run is they end up getting injured and sore because they just completely overload those areas. Now, we've seen this quite a bit. So again, we've been doing this for 10 years. That's what midfootproject.com is all about. 5 weeks of everything we learned packaged into a program for you where we personally kind of lead you through these exercises with Q&A sessions with us and coaching calls and things like that, where we'll actually show you how to avoid some of these big areas so you don't end up doing this. This right here, number 3, is an art. When we first started out 10 years ago doing this, we had a lot of people transitioning to a toe run. We couldn't figure out what's the right drill to get them to land flat with a nice bent knee and to land properly so that they don't overshoot and end up hurt with a pulled calf or Achilles tendonitis. And we ended up finding this drill that works really well that we put in this program that will teach you how to do this. But key thing, it takes time. This is a 5-week course because you can't learn a midfoot strike overnight. You will end up hurt. Number 2 is muscle prep. We get the friends and helpers involved. We show you how to relieve some of the calf stuff that's going to be going on. Number 3, we make sure you don't misstep by over-firing or overreaching or making these terrible arrows that we see with people who turn from heel strike to toe running, which I can tell you is no better than heel strike. You're probably actually better heel striking than toe running. So if you're interested in learning more about this, we have a 5-week course coming up. It starts April 1st called midfootproject.com. It's on midfootproject.com where we're going to work with myself and Pat O'Connor. We're going to lead you through the exact plan that we use to help runners get off their heel and onto the midfoot so they can run faster with less injury and hopefully, ideally, run for the rest of their lives because that's what we're all about. So if you're interested, go to midfootproject.com. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to help. Don't make these 3 mistakes if you're going to try to transition. If you really want to make sure you do it the right way, go to midfootproject.com. We'll help you out. All right? Have a great day, everyone. Bye.